Welcome to In the Thick of It, a podcast brought to you by Answering the Call. I'm David Fuller, the founder and director of Answering the Call. In the thick of it. You know, there's a lot of people who like to stay on the fringe. They tend to like keeping things safe. And then there are others who dive into what God is doing in the world and around them. Actually, they're ordinary people, but they're doing extraordinary things as they take the gospel to regions that are difficult to reach. Welcome to In the Thick of It.
Well, welcome to Answering the Calls In the Thick of It podcast. You are probably used to seeing this guy on the other side of the camera, but today...
But I like this side of the camera, this side of the microphone.
Exactly. Well, today we have the privilege of interviewing you, which is a little bit different. David Fuller is the founder and executive of Answering the Call, and finally, long-awaited, the much-awaited book is about to release. We're recording this now, but tomorrow is the official release date of your book and memoir, While the Dogs Are Barking, a memoir of faith, fire, and the front lines. So.
Catchy.
Yeah, it is catchy.
No,
I think so.
We're excited about the book. And I'm glad to be on this side of the mic because all the pressure is on you.
There is a little bit less pressure on that side. Well, maybe. We'll see. Depending on the questions. But I wanted to take a moment and read the back of the book because it really captures, it's kind of hard to tell just from the title what it is about. So I just want to take a moment. The back of the book says, "While the dogs are barking, the caravan is moving. From war zones in Sudan to seminary classrooms in Texas, through raw missionary fieldwork and the quiet ache of personal loss, David Fuller's journey is anything but conventional. In this moving, often humorous, and deeply human memoir, Fuller invites you into the dusty corners of the world and the soul, where faith is not theory, but survival. Told with unflinching honesty, biting wit, and a storyteller's eye for detail, While the Dogs Are Barking is a collection of unforgettable encounters, angelic visitors in refugee camps, dangerous border crossings that somehow turn holy, and the haunting memories of a girl and a goat that changed everything. This is not a book about playing church. It's about leaving comfort behind, staring into the sun, and following Jesus into places most people avoid, geographically, emotionally, and spiritually. For anyone who's tired of sanitized religion and yearns for a faith that bleeds, weeps, and moves forward anyway, this book is for you." Wow.
Wow. I couldn't have said it better myself.
And I can speak from, doing some of the editing and publishing portion of the book. It really, that completely accurately captures the
Well,
book.
I hope so. I think that's an apt description, and I hope it is.
I would say so. Well, I wanted to ask you kind of to start out, what inspired the title of the book? Because it's a very unique title, While the Dogs Are Barking. So what does that mean? Can you explain to people?
Okay. So the book entitled While the Dogs Are Barking, it really came out of an experience I had maybe only a year and a half ago or so. We had come out of South Sudan, and we were crossing the border into Sudan proper, and into a region of Sudan called Darfur. There's been, of course, a lot of chaos in that area. There's a war currently ongoing there, and our goal was to cross into Darfur up into a place called Dan, and the thought was, let's get in the thick of it, right? Let's get in the thick of it and see what the Lord might do. So we had some issues when we were leaving South Sudan. The government of South Sudan had restricted us and said, you're not allowed to cross into Sudan from here. And that was problematic because I didn't have a visa to get into Sudan. So That's problematic, but we had arranged and figured out a way to access there without a visa, but it was the South Sudan that was kind of holding us up. So we went ahead, even though they had told us not to, we went ahead and did, and we got in there. When we got in there, we had some problems, had some issues. In fact, got arrested in what we called market jail there in Sudan. And we hung around there for a day. The Lord kind of saw fit that we got out of there. But as we came back into South Sudan, because we had violated that government's perspective, we kind of knew we were in trouble. So we came back in. I was able to immediately get on a flight next day or something and get out. So no problem. However, the guys who had gone in with us, the people we work with there, we call them men of peace. Our people in there in South Sudan who had helped us get across, they got arrested. And so I don't know, it was like I got back into the States and then was hearing, okay, we got a couple of guys who've been arrested, and I'm trying to figure out like what are we gonna do about that? Like we got to get these guys. It's our guys. We can't just leave them. So one of the guys who had been arrested, I contacted his son and I said, look, we will do whatever we can. We'll do whatever we need to do. If you need me to, I'll get back on a plane. I'll fly down there. A lot of those situations you can just somehow financial incentive seems to breach all laws in South Sudan. And so we were able to, we were thinking that way. And so I said, get your dad a message and tell him I'm on a plane. I'll bring some cash, whatever we need to do to get him out of jail. And I waited. Next day I got a message back and I said, so what'd your dad say? And he said, my dad said, while the dogs are barking, the caravan is moving. And that's kind of a North African, Middle Eastern phrase. It's while the dogs are barking, the caravan is just like, look, we don't need to pay attention to the barking dogs. And he was saying, look, me being in jail here it's just a barking dog. And don't take it too serious. Don't worry about it. We'll figure it out. And certainly, interestingly enough, a couple 3 days later, he did get out of jail, and he was released. And so he was right. But as I got to thinking about that, I thought, it's really been characteristic of things over the last 20 whatever years it is.
Your life answering the call, just what the work is.
It's kind of what it is, normal. Yeah. Like, right. So it in a way it's normal. And so I realized, over the past 20 or whatever years it is, like, look, we've had a lot, there's always a lot of barking dogs. It's like this annoyance, that like maybe the enemy.
Anytime you start doing something, yeah.
There's nothing you can do that somebody doesn't agree, right? And so you can either pay attention to all the barking or you can just keep moving. And I just kind of felt like that was very characteristic of answering the call, and very characteristic of the ministry over the years is like, now we just keep moving. I recently, I guess it was about 2 years ago, when the war in Russia started, we were able to access, or in Ukraine, we were able to access Ukraine within, I don't know, a week or two of the war. And as we were going in, there were thousands of people coming out of Ukraine across that border. We were going the opposite direction, of course, going into it. And I thought that's that kind of thing is kind of typical. It's where we work, it's what we do, and there's always going to be barking dogs. Russia obviously didn't want you there, and even the people at the border from Ukraine, they were okay, but from another country we were accessing it from, they weren't excited. But it's like, it's kind of been true not only in the ministry over the last several years, but it's true just kind of in life for people in general. Not everybody's moving in and out of Sudan or Ukraine, but it's the same, right? When we're going to follow the Lord, we're going to engage what he has for us. There's going to be barking dogs. And in fact, if the dogs aren't barking,
Might not be doing something.
you may not. Yeah, like if the dogs aren't barking, better pay attention.
Yeah. That's really
but when they're
interesting.
barking,
Yeah,
you don't
yeah.
have to pay attention. You can just do
Right.
what you do.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a really interesting take because sometimes people can view that as, criticism, you're doing something wrong. Whereas you're saying, I'm getting criticism, that means we might be doing
Yeah,
something right.
what-
And it's not for everything, but
What
in those
one man's
cases.
criticism is another man's affirmation. So I think for us, it's been typically, not always, but typically it's kind of affirmation, really.
That's really interesting. I'm curious, not to shift gears here too much, but why now? Because you've been doing this work for 25 plus years. Why now write a book? And, what inspired you to actually do this? Because knowing you, working with you, you're traveling all the time, even now. And so where do you find the space to write a book like this? And why do you write a book like this?
Well, I'll answer the why part first. It took some years to accumulate the stories, but that's not the real why.
I don't know. I think you had a lot of stories, maybe in the first couple years, that you could have written a whole book about. And
Maybe.
this book doesn't even touch the number of stories that there are.
No,
Not even
no.
close. I would say it's core stories from
yeah.
that really represent
It's
a
fun.
lot of
When
other
I sit and read it
stories.
now, I'm looking at it and I'm thinking, oh, I forgot to talk about. I didn't say this story. I could have
Right.
talked about, but anyway, so yeah, the life stories through the years, but the why now probably had more to do with, there were people around me who would say, well, you should write this because, people want to, they want to, see what the Lord's doing. And I thought that's cool in a way, but in another way, it's like, well, no, you don't read a book. Like,
Do
go
it.
make some stories of your
Right.
own, right?
Yeah.
So that wasn't really it, and it was Joy, my wife Joy. I thought it'd be cool for her to have some kind of record of it, and because even though she wasn't always there, she was intimately and very intricately involved. But the real kicker was we now have 6 grandchildren, and hopeful that some more are coming. But for now,
Did
we
you hear that,
got 6.
kids?
Yeah, everybody catch that. But for now, there's 6 grandchildren, and I just thought, a lot of times the way institutional church presents what it is to follow Jesus is kind of boring, and I wanted for the grandkids, I wanted them to have some record of Poppy's life, not that it's about Poppy so much, but that it's about, oh, what would it look like if I just follow Jesus? There's some adventure to that. There's some risk in that even. There's huge reward in that. And so, I don't know, as we started having grandchildren, I started thinking, I just really want them to have a written record of that legacy to hopefully then point them to, oh, maybe this following Jesus is more than what the institution is telling me.
Mm.
And I wanted them to be encouraged, hopefully, to have their own stories of adventure as they follow him.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I think the book is going to be a little bit different than what people think it is. I think that a lot of people, and this was true for me, will go into reading the book thinking it's these crazy stories because they know you and they know you have crazy stories.
Yeah.
But I think they'll find that it has that depth of experience from a faith perspective. It really, for me, when I read it, kind of captured that tension that all of us kind of feel between like living out as a human on this earth and feeling human and making mistakes and all of these things that don't quite fit into sanitized religion. And then also this desire to bravely follow after Jesus. And it's like, are those things allowed to mix?
Yeah. Well, this thing, I didn't intentionally think this way. For me, it was about, I just want to write and be authentic. And so, in fact, the whole book was written on one draft.
Wow.
Right.
Well, I know that because
you know that because
you hand wrote the whole book.
I can't type. I don't know how to type.
but you hand wrote the whole book, which is pretty wild. Most people don't do that. And
I thought everybody did that.
I don't know. I don't know many people who do that.
Well,
But it's amazing. I mean, you wrote it.
well, I wanted it to be like just I just want it to be authentic, and so there are parts of it that are a little rough. There are parts of it that might not even fit in most traditional church settings, but it is authentic, and I want it to be authentic because it's it's kind of what I realized at the end of it is it's kind of written from a populist viewpoint,
Hmm.
and I think it's the kind of stuff that people think and
But they don't want to
think
say.
about,
Or
but they
feel like
don't
they're not
want to say.
allowed to say.
Think
Yeah.
that you're not allowed to say
Yeah.
it. Well, you're not allowed to say it, and not maintain, good relationships sometimes.
Right.
So
Yeah.
I don't know. So
I felt like it was brave because you choosing to be authentic in it, because you've been in all kinds of circles over the years, and
Yeah.
you run a Christian nonprofit, so the expectation sometimes maybe would be that this is a little bit more polished or a little bit more this or that, and I felt like it was brave to say, like, no, this was what I was actually thinking.
yeah.
And
Well,
like,
that's like we got to be real, right?
yeah,
Like following Jesus is not. Let's just like be authentic. Let's be real about it. I think sometimes I guess one of my hopes in it, it wasn't the motivation for writing necessarily, but I guess one of my hopes in it is that people who are on the fringe of faith, maybe, or maybe people who aren't have are not in the faith, maybe, but if they could see like enough transparency that, oh, this is authentic, this is real, this kind of makes sense. It doesn't. It's not so lofty and ethereal. It kind of makes sense, and so that's it. And for me, I'm happy to hear you say that. Like the stories are crazy, but like crazy stories aren't the point. Like crazy
Right,
stories
yeah.
just happen, and that's the thing you can sit around and laugh about at the end of the day. But that's not really the point. The point is, for me, that is what shaped your and molded your faith. That's what molded your walk with the Lord and how you approach Him and others and that. And so, um, had to be real. If
What was?
well, and so that
I thought
well,
so.
and think about like anybody who knows me, if I wrote something and it wasn't real, then
They'd be like, "That's not Dave."
yeah,
Yeah,
it's like it's kind of crap, right? That's not. I'm not interested
This
in that.
doesn't
Yeah.
quite fit with.
Yeah.
But I felt like it gave perspective into why you are the way that you are too, because some of the stories in this book kind of explain maybe why you're hard charging on something or why you're protective of people in the places that you've been. It's really amazing, and I can only imagine the conversations you've had over the years with people that it's hard to capture those stories in just a conversation that you have with
So
someone.
here's what you run into, right? You come home from some place and somebody says to you, you're at a cocktail party or you're at some event and somebody says, "Oh, how was your trip?"
Tell me about your trip. Yeah.
Well, it's really hard to do that. Like because and maybe people can see as they read it, if they read it, like maybe you can see like it's hard to encapsulate those stories in 60 or 90-second sound bites. It's hard to do that. So
Because those are real people, those are your friends. They've been through tragedy. And so it almost feels, and you say this in the book, it almost feels like it cheapens their stories if you make it into a soundbite.
or I'll tell you what cheapens it. What cheapens it is if you, and I've been in some settings where you begin to tell a story, and after a while I kind of quit doing that, because you could be in a setting where you begin to tell a story and their eyes drift off and you're like, it doesn't hurt my feelings. It's not important for you to hear my story, but what about my buddies, right? I was asked to speak at a church one. This was, I guess it was younger days and I was more immature, maybe.
Maybe, I don't know. I wasn't there.
But I was at that. You weren't there. Yeah. But I was at a church once, and they yeah, they wanted me to speak on some stories, and there was like a bunch of kids in the group. There was probably 200 or 300 people there, and I'm beginning to tell some stories and kind of weaving it into a message I'm supposed to speak on it. And so I was doing that, and I was just doing that. I noticed like I just come out of a very intense trip into South Sudan one time, and so I'm kind of telling some of the stories, and I'm noticing like there's pockets of kids here and some people over here, and like they're talking and they're just not interested. Well, it doesn't bother me that you're not interested in what I have to say, but the stories are kind of raw, some of them, not all of them, but some of them, and um, they mean a lot to me because the people who are on it, who are also a part of those stories, are not. They're not just.
They're not a
They're
statistic.
No, they're friends. They're
Yeah.
like people that I know well, some of them, and that you love a lot. And so when I'm telling those stories and I'm seeing all the people like nobody's plugged in, I got really offended. And so I'm talking, and I thought, uh, I'm like, I was offended, and I'm like, hey guys, if y'all not interested, I'm done, and just left. Now, hopefully, I would handle it a little bit better now.
But it is kind of great, the mentality of like, I'm not just gonna do the polite thing.
No,
And that's how this book is. It's like I'm not gonna do the polite thing and water this down.
so there's a fine distinction, and I think one distinction I tried to make, kind of behind the scenes and in my head at least, was you can tell stories, you can show video, you can do podcasts, you can do all these things, and you can sensationalize that without. And in our situation, it can be sensational stories without, you're still telling the truth. I'm just like, it's not, you're not embellishing anything, but you can sensationalize that to make money.
Mm.
That's what a lot of, I hate to say it, but that's what a lot of missions organizations, and that is kind of what they do, right? It's how you raise money.
But then at the end of the day, you're not in relationship with them.
Well,
And
but even more important, like it's not about, so the stories, you tell a story not to sensationalize a situation, that would be abusive. That's using people. I don't, but so hopefully in the telling of the story, it becomes not my story and even not their story, it becomes his story.
Mm.
Right. And so hopefully in there, maybe why some of the underpinnings of faith get kind of brought out in the telling of it all is because it's really his story. And um, it's not, at the end of the day, it's not about making money. At the end of the day, it's about representing who he is. And that takes you back to the authenticity. Like, how can we represent who he is without authenticity? Because if we're not real in the telling of it all,
then
then
how is someone supposed to live it out? Like if that's not real in the telling of it,
Yeah,
how are they
exactly.
supposed to live it out
Right.
in their own life when
Right.
they're
Right.
also human?
And we've all been around those movements. It's like be healthy, wealthy, and wise. Well, that's great till something goes wrong. And now what am I going to do? And where does my faith play into that? And so hopefully what the stories do is not glorify them or me. Hopefully it begins to paint a picture of who he is.
Mm. Yeah, I want to read this quote, kind of touching on the authenticity and how you felt. And it struck me that someone who's a pastor and a missionary, and this is your whole life, would say something like this. And it hit me as like, oh, wow.
And I hate both of those terms, but go ahead.
Oh, yeah. So you said, a father of Christian rock, Larry Norman, admitted they shake their heads at me in church and they laugh at me in school. Walking away from the things of the world to follow Christ can leave you feeling lonely in the world. You hope then to find a church where you can be at home. But when you leave the institution of religion behind, compelled by compassion down untested paths, you can also find yourself lonely at church. I say that to encourage you who are alone. I have often felt the loneliest in crowded spaces, carrying things they cannot or will not understand. It is difficult for someone inside the institution to tolerate someone who is not.
It is because
Yeah.
it challenges them maybe, and yeah,
And you tell these stories that are hard to talk about, and it's almost like it's not allowed in church. And the back of the book that talks about how this book is not about sanitized religion. That's really what it's getting at. It's like following Jesus is alive. That's what the stories are about.
yeah.
It's about
And look, I don't want to bang the church. The
Sure.
church is like the people. So I'm not banging the church or banging this should be like this is the bride of Christ. This is not we don't I'm not hammering them, but it's just the institutional
or when the focus is on that. On the
yeah, well, and it's
institution.
just the institution itself that has to kind of sanitize everything. And I think you can hammer the institution without hammering the people. And
Yeah. You
that's
say that like even when you talk at the end of the book, I don't want to give too much away. But you're talking to your grandchildren and
Yeah.
saying like, don't abandon the church.
No,
Those are
no.
those are the people who will take care of you.
I'm a church guy,
Yeah.
very strongly, both theologically and practically. I'm a church guy, but I just think that this was a great venue. Maybe it's just well said to say this was a great venue to be able to present some of this in a way that you don't have to give just sound bites, in a way that you can relay some of the underlying currents of faith, your own faith, and in a way that doesn't have to be sanitized.
Yeah. Well, it's amazing. I cannot wait for you all to read it. I've read it maybe close to 50 times
I think
out
you read
of
it.
necessity.
I think you read it more than I did.
But
Yeah.
what I'll say is that reading it that many times, you'd think I'd be sick of it, but it still has the same impact. We just released the first chapter of Dave's book over email called For Joy.
Yeah.
And I got a bunch of messages from people saying like, wow, I teared up and all these things. It was very sweet. But like, I remember talking to your daughter soon after, and we were saying, but they don't even know the whole book is that way. Like, you know, and
We'll
and
see.
I'll say that like it's very impactful. It just really gets at the things that, you know, a lot of us wish that we would be able to put into words.
Well, and I'll mention just one other thing. So right now, sometimes when you come home from situations or places like that, even just coming home and Joy, my wife, is there, and you know, so when I go somewhere, the rest of life kind of continues on. And now when you come back, you got to slide right back into that, and it's a totally different world, right? So you got to slide right back in it. So interestingly enough, I think I would guess that half of the stories that are in there, like she had never heard,
Wow.
right? And even at a deeper level than that, the tenets of faith that kind of underpin all that, it's not stuff you just sit around and talk about, right? So.
Right.
I mean, we're talking like everybody else. We're trying to figure out, you know, how you gonna pay the mortgage and you know, where
Practical
we going
things.
Friday night. Yeah, I mean, it's just like anybody else. So, yeah, and that's true. And what's also true is like the grandchildren I mentioned earlier. They're like young, right? So I can't sit and tell them all that. I don't have a guarantee that I'll be there when it's time to sit and talk about all that.
Well, let's hope you will. But
I hope so, but I don't know. I mean, you don't know. And also, I mean, they're really young, right? And I'm not as young as I was. And so, like, as I wrote, in the back of my head, it was kind of like on one side of my head is Joy and my kids and all that. On the other side of the head, that was the grandkids. And that voice, a lot of times I felt like I was writing to them.
That's
And
cool.
So
Yeah, imagining them as they're growing up.
yeah,
And
and
figuring things out. 'Cause
oh, you're
every
writing, and
kid
you're like,
does.
oh, I wonder what so and so will say about this.
Yeah.
What will they think about this? What if they'll show their friends, or maybe they're like, Poppy's crazy. I don't I don't know what they're gonna think.
Maybe
but
a mix.
maybe
we'll
a
see.
mix.
We'll see.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Were there any parts that were hard to write? Because, and we don't have to go into the details. People will read it, but what were things that were hard to write?
Um, yeah.
It's a big question.
Yeah. As I wrote, it was a, honestly, it was kind of a difficult experience for me in a way. Because even some of that thinking, while it may happen subconsciously, you don't necessarily sit around and put words to all the stuff that's going on in your heart, you know?
Right.
And so there were a lot of parts of it that were difficult for me.
I imagine because there are parts that are difficult to read. And
I would say the two parts that were most difficult for me were, you mentioned it in the intro. There's a part about the reception of a goat as a gift. I won't go into a whole bunch of detail there, but that was very difficult. There's another part in there about a situation we ran into with women in Congo. That was a difficult part to write. Those are the two that stand out in my mind, probably.
yeah. I mean, I can imagine because, like I said, some things were difficult to read, but you want those things to be difficult to read because they're impossibly hard situations that happen.
Okay, so see, now we're back to this authenticity thing. It's like, but you have to write that, right? And you have to. It made me have to kind of be honest with myself and answer some questions I have of him.
Yeah.
Right. And
It's
so,
like, am I going to leave this part out because this is one of the biggest things?
if you do, it's not authentic.
Yeah.
And look, it's not just me. Like, all of us have situations and circumstances we're in that are beyond our control. They may not even be of our own making. They might be, but they might not. But it's stuff that only he can make sense of. And I think authenticity is somewhat lacking these days. And so I didn't have to try to be authentic. I just had to make sure I wasn't. I
Right.
was, or make sure I wasn't something else. Yeah.
I will say, even with the things that are difficult, you weave in humor and heartbreak in just an amazing way. Was that intentional, or is that just how you live life?
It's
That-
just the way my brain works,
yeah,
you know, and so humor and heartbreak, and music, like,
yeah.
for me, that's kind of how you, uh, it's how you process a lot of thoughts, maybe.
You said in the book, you
Did I?
said, the music interrupts because I need it to.
Yeah, you can't.
And you're like, my editor, Wes, my editor told me just to say that because it seems abrasive to put those side by side. But then I listened to the playlist. We'll all have the playlist at the but from your book, and I was like, oh, I get it. I'm reading these stories, and the songs are interrupting, and they help.
Yeah, it's an interruption, right? It's takes time to process some of that stuff. Some of it, for me, there was a couple things that took a year or two to process, and you need the interruption from it. You can't live at that heightened emotion for that long and without doing damage. And the music breaks
You
it up.
also talk about in the book about how in the places you travel, they haven't forgotten, even in the tragedy that they live in, they have not forgotten to play. And it's something that us in the West have almost been trained not to do.
Yeah, the best example I have of that is in South Sudan, actually. We're there. Our primary work in South Sudan is with the Dinka. Dinka are they're kind of a warrior-like tribe, and man, they've just had onslaught from the regimes in Khartoum and radical Islamic regimes, and but they laugh a lot. And in fact, they'll ask me every once in a while. They'll say they'll say that they call white people, they call you the Kawaja, and every once in a while they'll ask me, the Kawaja, why does he not play?
Wow.
And I do think that in the States,
It's profound.
it is profound.
Yeah.
Because I think in the States, men in particular, ladies too, I think, we've kind of lost the ability to just play.
Yeah, it's like that's, somehow not allowed, or you're being too childish if you get to a
Well,
certain
and
age.
certainly don't want to play in church, right? Because that's unholy. It's like, I don't know. I'm kind of thinking Jesus probably, I'm sure there was times he didn't laugh, but I bet he was a happy guy. I bet he laughed a lot. I bet he played. And especially that culture.
Had the children come to him. They
Yeah,
weren't a nuisance. They weren't an annoyance.
Yeah, just play. And it's an interruption at points. It's an escape at points. But temporary escape's not always bad.
Yeah.
You know?
That's cool. Well, what would you say to someone who feels stuck in the comfort or the lack of playfulness, but senses a call to something more? They're afraid to take the leap.
I don't know. I mean, I would just say take the leap because, and I would also say, if you'll take the leap, you'll never regret it. And it may change the course of life. It may, taking a leap doesn't come without some cost to it. But at the end of the day, you'll be glad you took the leap, and whatever it costs you to take the leap, you'll sit back and say it was worth it.
Because there will be a cost to anything. There's a cost to not taking the leap too.
Well, I guess that's right. Yeah,
that's maybe sometimes.
Actually, the cost of not taking a leap may be much greater, but it's more subtle. But it
feels safer. Maybe
it might feel safer, but
Yeah.
it's. Plus, we're just back to the whole thing. It's like it's boring. Like what?
What you don't like things that are boring?
No, well, and part of what we're bringing forth here, I think, is some of it is I'm just ADD, and
I don't think that's I don't think it's just that.
Well, it's part of it.
I think maybe part of it, but I think that's in all of us. There's that feeling of wanting to be on an adventure. It's maybe you don't necessarily need the thrill all the time, but like you want that meaning. There's that innate desire.
And what stops it? Fear.
Yeah.
I heard a guy say one time, fear. That's false evidence appearing real.
You put that in the book too.
Did I?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't remember, but okay.
It's been a while.
I'll take your word. I'll take your word for it. But most of the things we fear never transpire, and most of the things we fear, even if they do transpire, we find very quickly there's an antidote, there's a solution, and I guess that's the thing I would say. It's like don't let fear stop you. Don't let fear rob you of. Jesus came. He's like, look, I can. You might have life, and you might have it abundantly. Like, don't let fear stop you from His plan to give you abundant life.
That's a wrap. That's like. Wow. I do want to do a quick lightning round before we leave people with more information about the book. Just some fun things to ask you about. What's something that you always carry with you when you travel? And
chewing tobacco.
Authentic.
Yeah. My wife will probably kill me for that one, but
she'll love it.
I offer no explanation. I just answered the question. It's a lightning round.
I won't dig deeper.
Okay.
Favorite local dish you've had abroad, or most unique? You can go a different route. It doesn't have to be your favorite.
Okay, this was not my favorite, but the most unique probably was monkey balls.
Authentic.
Authentic. Again, we see authentic. And I remember asking the guy, I was thinking, you've heard of matzo ball soup, right? Well, the monkey balls kind of came in a soup. And so I was asking the guy, are you saying matzo ball? And he goes, no, monkey ball. I'm like, monkey ball? What's a monkey ball? He goes, the balls of monkey. And so it was,
That's all you need.
yeah, it was different. I wouldn't repeat it.
I don't really want to know.
You don't need to know. You're not missing out on anything.
I won't try it.
Yeah.
Yeah. What song or songs come to mind? Whether it's ones that you listen to on the road or
Two come to mind. One is Jackson Brown, "Doctor My Eyes." And if you really look through it's in the book. If you really look through the lyrics of that, of course, it's a great song. But just look through the lyrics of that. I think that's thematic, and I think it's authentic, and it's thematic of the whole story.
The songs in the book aren't super Christian.
How are you
but they are.
How are you defining Christian?
But they are. I knew you were going to say that.
I'm trying to come from the perspective that maybe truth is just truth, and if it's truth, since he's truth, it's his truth. But which makes it Christian.
I knew you were going to come at it from that angle.
There's another song. It's called "Crossroads." It's by a little-known artist who's it's almost country and western, which is not really my genre, but a little bit. But this he's in Europe, so it's a different kind of thing. It's called Crossroads, and he talks about one road leads to sacrifice, one road leads to pain, but then he says one road leads to freedom. And he goes, but the problem is they all look the same.
Wow.
And so that also lyrically, I like music, but I'm kind of a lyrics guy. So like, I think that one's currently today. When I was coming here, I listened to that song because it's kind of it's just kind of thematic to where I think I am right now.
Yeah, it captures
today. It's thematic for today. The first one thematic for all those years. This one is kind of thematic for today.
Yeah. Wow. You ask this question a lot to other people, and I'm going to ask you.
Oh.
You ask people, what's the Lord telling you? And I know that's a big question. But in this book, kind of reaching this milestone.
I'll tell you what the Lord's telling me. Like there's an event coming where I'm going to speak in, and I've been trying to think, what am I going to talk about? Like, I really feel like what the Lord's telling me is it's not done yet. Like, you're not done, and I'm not done, and it's not done yet. And I don't know, I just started thinking of it this way, like, oh, life is really only 2/3 or 3/4 done. Like, we're in the fourth quarter. It's time to dig in, man. It's time to go, you know?
I like it.
That's what he's been telling me, I think.
I like it. Well, on that note, I'm going to put up a shot of your book.
Oh.
And
well, that's a good picture.
That is a good picture. This is you.
On the motorcycle.
On the motorcycle. And it's not the only picture or video we have of you on a motorcycle. I feel like every time you go to Sudan, South Sudan, you're on a motorcycle.
We try to be.
Yeah. And it's sometimes the best way to get around. But
we're not real proud of those motorcycles, a little 125. It's not like
they've got wrapping on them to keep the dust out.
It's not like my Harley, right? It's different. But it's still a motorcycle. And on that particular picture, we were on the way into Darfur. And good times. Yeah.
That's awesome.
I like the picture on the back better.
Yes, I love the picture on the back. That kind of epitomizes you, your personality.
I don't know.
I think so.
I just like it because that kid I'm with, his dad and I are buddies, and he's just a sweet, sweet kid, you know. And he would come like that. That was taken not long ago. I think, I don't know, in the past year.
I think it was maybe the last trip. I think
not my last trip, but
maybe not your last trip.
Yeah, but it was this year, and he's just sweet, and he would come every morning like that, and he would just come stare at me, and he's quiet. He doesn't speak much English. He speaks a little, and it was just always in the morning. Best times in South Sudan is in the morning at tea time, and he would always come and share that time with me. And
hang out.
He's a special kid, so I like that picture. Yeah.
That's awesome. I love that picture too. Well, where can people find the book? Maybe I can tell them, but you can tell them first.
I'm not sure. I know you can. I know that you can find the book on Amazon. That's all I know. All right, you take it from there.
Yeah. While the Dogs Are Barking on Amazon starting October 3rd. And we'll also have some links on our website at www.answeringthecall.org. So, and how can people, I might be able to answer this question too, but how can people, if they want you to speak, like say they want you to speak about this book or have you on a podcast?
Would love to do some podcasts and love to do some of that. I don't know how they do that. I guess you could probably tell them that.
So I think the best way is to reach out to us at Answering the Call at info@answeringthecall.org. You can email us and we'll get that lined up for you. So we'd love to, probably us more, maybe. Well, yeah, I think you would enjoy it too. But
I'm looking forward to
get you speaking, interacting with some people, talking about the book. So
yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
That'd be great. Well, thank you guys so much for joining us on In the Thick of It. We hope that you're able to get Dave's book on Amazon, or for those of you who are coming to the event, from the event. And more than anything, hope that you enjoy the amazing stories and from the road and David Fuller's experience and are inspired to find your own adventures with Jesus along the way.
Sounds good. Blessings.